Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. My cup runneth over with the good fortune of Royal Farms coffee, and I've seen Justin Tucker kicking it around. People say, you drink the Royal Farms coffee, but I have the chicken box, but I have the Cole Roofing mug, which I don't know, dude. I've just taken your mug. It just sort of feels comfortable for me, so I drink out of it a lot. But it is Royal Farms in there. Bill Cole is here from Cole Roofing. I wore your hat this morning. I've had problems with sponsors this week. I told Leonard Raskin this, and also Evan Brown over at El Guapo. I try to launder my stuff on the weekends, but because every day is like a Sunday, but not like a Sunday because the Ravens played on Sunday and they played on Sunday night, that my laundry schedule was all off. So, I wound up washing things. So, apologies to all my sponsors for that. But I'm here and now with the Cole Roofing mug and the Cole Roofing hat. How are you, man? You getting through COVID here? You buying your turkey? I mean, what's going on, man? I missed you last week.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I appreciate the fact that you're speaking to trying to find a rhythm, trying to find your routine, if the same coffee in the same mug gives you some solace when, the rest of your world and routine are consistently being altered. I'm in a good place. I think it's never a good sign when the governor of your state is on TV, 4 times in 7 days or something, whatever the pace is we're on right now. That's the dude that weirdly you never want to hear from. I don't want to hear from him.
I know. Once Biden takes over here, let that other guy go off to whatever, channel he goes off to. I don't want to hear from my president 48 times a day on Twitter, insulting people and worrying people and fretting. We're already in the middle of a pandemic, and this thing's getting heavy, right? I mean, with Thanksgiving next week and gathering, and look, you and I can talk football, which we do. We can talk baseball, which we used to do, and you and I certainly thrown politics around from left to right and everywhere in between, but the next 60 days in this pandemic, with the numbers spiking the way they are, it can no longer be sold as a hoax, right? I guess it's being sold as a crooked election, although there's zero evidence of that right now. And, we're sort of dangling in the balance here, waiting for new leadership, but waiting for a vaccine. And then there's the whole, it's Thanksgiving, and we always do Thanksgiving this way. And if we do it any other way but this way, it's not going to feel like Thanksgiving. And I'm really worried, man, because people don't listen to the law. You know this. I mean, this has been borne out. They don't listen to science. They didn't listen to Fauci. Apparently, they listen to Trump, a large segment do, much larger than I ever believed possible since the last time you and I spoke. But I don't think people are going to listen. I think people are going to go have turkey and do what the hell they want in large swaths of America. And whatever that percentage is, 20, 30, 40, whatever that percentage would be, who are just going to do what they always do for the most part, grandma be damned. I don't know what to say 7 months into this. I'm a little frustrated at this, dude, for being Baltimore Positive. I'm trying to be positive to tell people to stay away from each other next Thursday, but I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, I think that early on in the spring, I was frustrated where I really kind of felt like we had let our kids down. Hey, all the adults out there, you're supposed to be minding the shop here. And now we've had to send kids home from school and their sports stop and they're not allowed to have friends and kids aren't graduating and all. It's like we let our kids down. Like what else do we all get up and go to do all the time is to make the world a better place for our kids, right? Like my kids, your kids, whoever's kids. And I felt like we let them down. And I feel like that's happening again, and now I mean, I'm with you. I'm really scared for people in general in terms of in the spring, every day it got warmer. Every day it got a little more light out. Everybody reconnected with their bicycles and they took walks and it was pleasant.
Went fishing.
Yeah. And
my wife and I took 2 walks last week. The last 2 days that it was 70, 71, yeah. 2:30 in the afternoon, knowing it was getting dark at 4:30, 5 o'clock. My wife played hooky. We drove to Harford County on Monday and we walked the gunpowder right near the golf club in Falston. And we the next day went to Centennial Park, stopped at State Fair, and took some sandwiches. And we went to Howard County. I mean, like literally,
Yeah.
Mueller's going to be pissed that I didn't go to Baltimore County. Don't tell him I did this, um, but can I?
There'll be time to do it. You'll have time to do it. You'll just need to
I mean,
wear more
I'm
layers.
hearing what you're saying about emotions and about
I'm just saying
family and about the reality of the human touch and all of that. But I really do want to take this with you further along. Were you a good science student? I mean, I'm not being flippant. I'm being like literally. I was interested in science, but it was really complicated for me, and I didn't want to dissect frogs. You know what I mean? Like that was not my jam. You know, I was much more into like, you know, what Buck Williams was doing. You know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? Literally, right? So I was much more like to be doing the dollar block pool or filling out a March Madness bracket in 1982 than I was paying attention to Mr. Schulin in science class, right? But I mean, I knew what the periodic table of elements. I'm, you know, I know about photosynthesis. I took a horticulture class. I mean, but like biology, never got that far. You know, like I took science.
Right.
Like, thank you, Thomas Dolby. Science. But the science part of my brain in being an avid reader, a guy that's tried in various ways with some success in other ways to run a business, to try to be nice to people, to follow the golden rule, to have relations, all of these things that are very, very complex above and beyond the Constitution or civics or things as an American, you know, how to pay your taxes and what insurance is and, you know, all of these things. We have to taxes that come out of your paycheck when you're 16 years old. You're like, FICA, what the hell is that? You know, like all of these things you have to figure out as you go through life's journey and every April 15th and balance your books and write checks. But the science thing, and I guess this struck me with my wife's illness, right? Well, you know, I married a diabetic, then she gets cancer. So you start Googling stuff a little bit more. But like the science part of this is just so unbelievably lost on so many people in regard to hang Anthony Fauci and the CDC's crooked and doctors are crooked and they know too much. They must be crooked. And someone wrote on my Facebook page last week, I call what we do at Baltimore Positive now intelligent conversation, right? Like that's our little tagline. She said to me, "Oh, that sounds snooty."
You kick me off now. The intelligent conversation.
No. Okay. She said, "That sounds snooty." Intelligent and I'm like, what do you want me to? Would you prefer me to call it expert conversation for dummies? You wouldn't listen to that. Like I don't know what to call it. That is unimposing, but science on its face, right? Electricity, physics, math, equations, all of that stuff makes all of us go, woo, woo. I mean, we don't even we didn't even take the metric system here, dude. We couldn't even convert the math to the way the rest of the world did it, right? So
that's an ego thing. But I think the older I get, the more interested I am in sorting things out, right, and trying to understand them. I'm with you in.
But a pathogen you can't see, right? Like in a lot of ways, it is very, very nebulous. If we went down on the street right now and grabbed 100 random Americans like they do on the Family Feud, and we said 100 Americans surveyed, what is a virus? Go, Bill. You know what I mean? Like if we did that, I mean, we'd be in the single digits for sure, that people can really explain it. And we're all having to live with it now, one way or another, whether we understand it, can explain it, whether it'll never be explained. You know, for some people, Algebra 2 was always going to be a struggle for me. But the part that I don't understand it, I can't absolutely explain it like Mr. Schulin probably could, or my wife's doctor, but I respect it. You know what I mean? And there's a point where it's like, I can't explain electricity. I can't explain why if I go touch my radio tower, I will be electrocuted, but I respect it, you know?
But yeah,
and
but
I don't think we're at that point in America. I really don't.
But a lot of that foundational respect was built as a child and a young adult in a universe where the places of your information were limited, right? So what do mom and dad tell me? what do my teachers tell me? What are my friends telling me?
What does the book tell me?
Right. Okay, now what can I read? What's in the newspaper? You know, what
What's on PBS? If I
right.
want to know more.
So I I I
I
would
watched Nova
offer
when I was a kid in the 70s, right? Like, you know what I mean?
I would offer that um the amount of money that is available to call it political agendas, ideology agendas, or even the capitalism agenda.
Just to sell you something, sure.
Right. The amount of money that goes into that, and then their ability and access to media that we consume at a rate that like never was touched in history, right? Automatically creates mistrust and confusion on our part, right? Like you and I will never be the scientists to look in the microscope and figure out the pathogen. But
But
I
we know
need
enough to sort of trust the people who've spent their whole lives doing it.
up until the point where there's all this noise and volume trying to discredit that person because hey, people have been discredited along the way. What was the guy that was the coach of Notre Dame that lied about his resume?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that stuff has existed. So some of us are more skeptical than others. And then depending on what channel you watch, you're influenced by it. And even the most independent free thinkers among us, you're still influenced
Well, there's
by
no
the data.
doubt that we are funneled on information. The most heartbreaking thing that I saw this week in the news, Bill, was in South Dakota, there was a nurse that said people are literally coming in, being diagnosed with COVID, being put in a room. The whole time they're in the room, all they're doing is screaming that they don't have it, that there's no way they can have it because it is not a real thing. As they cough, as they wheeze, they yell, they scream, they're angry at the doctors because they think it's a Rosemary's Baby witch hoax. They have COVID. They won't accept that they have COVID. They don't even believe they have the flu. They stick a tube down their throat and they die. And they're watching this go on now in South Dakota. And people even with it don't believe they have it, and that's when this thing's gone. Bill, I've thrown a dozen people off my Facebook page in the last 6 months and these were people I like knew. One of them I knew pretty well, who were in July and August calling this a hoax to benefit a political agenda that I have I that's the hardest part, is that we're getting 1 million people a week diagnosed with something that a large percent of people don't understand for sure, but then can't possibly accept because they don't understand it, and it doesn't enter their mind as possible. In the same way, for 5 minutes, I'm like, leukemia, my wife,
Right.
check the chart there. I mean, yeah, that
Yeah,
can't.
right. That can't happen.
There
Sure.
is denial, right, in that
Sure.
first moment, and there is that let's get a second opinion. Oh, we're at Hopkins. Hold on, right?
Well, how
And
much?
then there's the point where, like, if I'm in there saying there is no such thing as cancer because I was led to believe that by whatever sect, cult, religion, belief, political channel, whatever my belief would be, that there cannot possibly be cancer. There's no way it could be happening. Or because look at her, I can't even see it. You know, I think there's a real. I think we're in a city, and I really think in far-flung places where there is no other news, that's a very, very difficult thing. And I think you see these red charts now. That's the really scary part for me, that you don't even buy in once you got it, right?
Hoax. So going all the way to a hoax is a very convenient opinion, right? That allows you to not change anything.
Not allow any information in,
You're
right?
right. I mean, it
Right.
just like this is total B, and that is really convenient for those who just cannot handle change or whose lives are so disrupted. You know, like I get it. My problem is it's so much more complicated that like that one side of the political spectrum was willing to do whatever it would take to make sure that we didn't get 4 more years of Donald Trump. Like they
Sure.
right 100%. So how information is conveyed is clearly affected by that. And then there's a whole nother part of the population, which in our country appears to be about half, who are saying, oh, no, no, this is all tactics. This is the way we want to behave. These are the things we want to do. Look at how much better this is going to be. So I don't know that a pandemic, even in any time in history, right, would have been handled differently in regards to the amount of politicization. That's a tough word.
Yeah, 6 months before an election, it wouldn't have mattered in this country.
Even if it was 2 years, like, just, I mean, look, for the last 4 years, right, the Dems have attempted to fight Trump at every corner. I mean, like, that was what they did. And when there's a Democratic president, guess what? The Republicans are going to fight him for 4 years. Like, that's just how it goes. So I get that. So that's always going to be an underpinning of this. I just am curious about, like, almost everyone agrees that the data is corrupt, right? To some varying degree. Like,
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I don't agree that hospitals bake COVID statistics. I don't believe that. I don't believe that hospitals tell families that someone died of COVID when they didn't. I don't believe that. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe the system could be that corrupt amongst nurses and doctors in a hallway, in a COVID ward, to believe that.
Oh, don't put any emotional or, like, pathologically, like, malevolent piece to it. It's just the fact that the person died of something and they have the COVID. So they're a COVID death. And whether that was accelerated because of the COVID or whether they would have died at that point without the COVID, I don't even think the doctor could tell you that, right? So I don't believe that there's this malicious scam around the numbers, but the fact that there's a box that you can check.
I've just had too many people lose their parents to even speak like. I mean, literally, man. I mean, I got a friend of mine who lost both their parents in the course of 4 weeks in August, and they were, hanging out fine on the 4th of July. So, so I for me to say, so either way, so it's about 250,000. Okay, so if it's 200,000 or if it's 300,000, if it's baked one way or another, or even if it's cut in half and it's only 125,000, it's too many for me.
Too many, correct. What I'm trying to get to is, like, this is a massive problem, and someone has to problem solve for it. And it never feels like anyone is really solving for the problem or really giving us all the information. And that could be a product that they don't have it, right? Like, it's new and it's like,
well, solving the problem is the vaccine, right? I mean, that's the ultimate solve. The current solve is wear a mask, right? Like, literally, wash your hands, wear a mask, socially distance, stay apart, right? Like, that's what governments all around the world are asking their citizens to do, right? Like, it's a pretty universal. It's not an American ask. It's not a Democratic ask. It's a science ask.
Right, but it became this cheap politicization.
Only because a guy who doesn't believe in science called it a hoax, who leads the culture and who runs a news network that polluted the minds of 40% of at least the voters. I mean, saw a number the other day. It said 70 million people voted for him, but there's still 400 million people in the country. So really, he only really activated about 20% of the country, in that direction, which, okay,
what I'm trying to understand is, somehow we have a society where it is required to wear pants. Like,
and women wear brassieres and
right.
Right, exactly.
I mean, these things were solved for without us having to take to the streets to, like, argue about it. And if the science says this is really the problem, and we're trying to save grandma and grandpa and mom and dad because that's what the science says, I don't really understand whether Trump wants to wear a mask or not. Like, as a store owner, you write on the no shoes, no shirt. Like, I mean, that's gone on forever. So how is this a problem?
I don't know. Ask the people in Michigan that took over the state house, right? I mean, I don't over masks and freedoms and liberate and like all
But
all of this that's
but what
going
is it
on.
that they right? But what is it that they believe that makes them willing to disregard that? Is
Well,
it
they
the
don't
fact?
believe they can die from this, right? They patently, if they believe they could die from it, if they really believe that at a visceral level, they would take it more seriously, right?
Okay, and does
So
that
right
does
off
that
the bat, let's take the top off of that. That you're only running around with an AK-15 running into the state house without a mask on because you don't believe in science. You don't believe this can kill you. So you do think it's a hoax, and therefore you think the man's out to get you and to make you wear a mask and you're free, and the only way you're going to be free, like I can't get in the mind of Ted Nugent, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
okay?
yeah,
But
I
but
mean,
does Ted Nugent wear a seatbelt?
probably not. Probably
Right,
wrote a song about not wanting to wear a helmet when he was on his motorcycle, right? Like, sure.
right. And
My
in
wife's
some
from New Hampshire. Live free or die.
right, right. I mean, and this is why this is such a
And they
problem for our
voted for
country.
Biden. Bill Cole is here from Cole Roofing. Go ahead, man. I just want to
No, I
reset for
just
everybody out
yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah, all good. Like to me, we've lived with those issues forever. And some states have decided, well, I don't really care whether you want to wear a seatbelt or not. Like the
Well,
tax
what
that
happens is we won't insure you, right?
right, the
Or
tax on
Montana says we're
society.
so free we don't have a speed limit, and the federal government says, well, then you don't get highways from us, and they say, well, we're free. We'll just charge everybody $20 more in taxes, and we'll pave our own road, right? Like literally, this is what makes the United States kind of interesting in that political way, right? We have different rules, right?
It is, which I believe creates um, no pathway to mitigate a pandemic. And
Because we don't stop people at state lines, right? Literally.
there's a ton of stuff. Like you just hit on like three or four of them. It's like yeah, in Maryland you're required to wear a seatbelt. Like
How
you
many
could get a
times have you
ticket.
had your temperature taken since this thing started in a public place?
Right, not by myself because I'm a
No.
whack
How many
job and
times have
take
you
my
tried to
temperature all
walk
the
in?
time.
How many times have you tried to walk into a place and
Uh,
before you walked in, they said, we're going to take your temperature?
maybe half a dozen. I
Yeah,
haven't I
I've
haven't
had
gone a lot of
three. I've
yeah,
had
I
three.
haven't gone a lot of
I
places.
think if you're in Seoul, South Korea right now, it's more of a way of life. Right? Like,
Sure,
yeah.
I
I
would
mean,
believe
it's
that.
just being taken a lot more seriously. And we go back to our conversations a month ago, which is at the beginning of this, when this happened in Asia, the meat wagons rolled in, the white Willy Wonka Mike TV suits came out. They carted the person out. Now we've got like the Dodgers guy piling on. And, I saw a piece the other day, and this would pertain to you, by the way, and your family and kids and whatnot. Woman said that her daughter came home with COVID this week. And I think it's a New Jersey story, and daughter played all summer, whatever the summer sport was, softball, and then transitioned to the fall and like literally thought that all the other parents would be as responsible and as vigilant and as all that, and her kid got COVID. And I'm thinking to myself, well, it's 2020. That really is the issue, right? We go back. I wrote these two words down. I wrote down science and civics, and then I wrote down the word trust, right? And there really is this human trust amongst us, right? That relatives who do get together next week with their uncle and split pumpkin pie and do all the things everybody's telling them not to do, all the things every scientist, they have a level of trust that it's my uncle, he can't have it, right? That trust is where all of this is, and trusting other humans is kind of how we make our way through the world, right? Literally, we have to trust other humans.
Yeah, I think to get back to the idea of um, freedom and pandemic, right? Not being able to properly function together. Like we're not trying to stop the virus, right? Like the decisions that are being made, like you already know, and even the structure around how we're handling close contacts and positive tested people and people they think might be tested, might test positive and have symptoms, and even all the stuff around that is not meant to completely eliminate this, right? We have transitioned from stay at home, right? Doctors say if we don't do this, we're going to overwhelm our hospitals, and then we're going to have a real problem. Like, you think there's a problem, wait till you see what happens when you can't go to the hospital for a heart attack because there's nowhere to put you.
Which is the case in a lot of places right now, more than they've ever been in
if
this
it's
country.
not, it's about a day or two away. It sure seems like, right? Like, the numbers are
Yeah, don't cut
staggering
yourself in the
fast.
kitchen. You be careful, right?
Homemade
This
stitches.
isn't the week to get the chainsaw out, right? Literally.
Right. So, but the test subject here, right? Like, this as deadly as it is, it's not Ebola, right? Like it's not as bad as it could be. And we're failing right now. But are we learning enough to know, oh, well, this one we can manage our economy. We're going to have to, take some lumps here to save some lives. But it's not Ebola. Like Ebola, everything shuts down, right? And Ebola kills the host, so it would be Ebola morphed into something else, right?
I saw a piece on Ebola last week that, like, where viruses come from. It was a 1 hour special. It's fantastic, like in the caves and the bats and doing all that stuff. And the Ebola thing's like really, I didn't follow it as much 7, 8 years ago, whatever. I think it happened like when Jem was sick, actually. So I was kind of like periphery at that point. But that's like a whole different game. But this one isn't good, Bill.
I know that, but if this one was Ebola, we would be taking different steps. And all I try and do sometimes is think about
the next one.
Well,
trying to get through this one.
Think about the evaluation of the choices that are being made, and then whether I agree or disagree with them, right? Because fundamentally, that's what causes me to conform, or causes us to have a discussion, or causes me to suggest to my parents, hey, maybe you should stop going to Home Depot. Like, you don't need to go to Home Depot. So, like, but I don't know, and I don't have a lot of trust in the leadership right now that they're actually, like, they didn't shut fitness clubs down, right? So is the message that, like, you can do this as long as you do these three things? Wear a mask, stay 6 feet
I don't
apart,
know,
wash your
man. It
hands,
feels
whatever,
like a
right?
big Scared Straight episode to some degree. That, like, you know what I mean? It, like, could clubs be open and function? Sure. Could restaurants be? As long as it goes back to trust. As long as everyone is doing everything, then it doesn't happen until one kid knows their parents, peed dirty and still goes and plays soccer anyway, and then the whole team's got it. And that's sort of the NFL story, right? I mean, the NFL has so much money at stake, and I talk about this all the time, and them getting to the playoffs, and then we'll wrap, I guess. But the wristbands, the 6-foot wristbands, literally, they have what Larry Hogan talked about in the press conference on Tuesday that we don't have, which is we don't have a societal buy-in to say, here's my location, I'm clean. If I touch anybody dirty, I need to know so I don't bring it home to my father or my mother, right? And no one in the society is willing to, and again, it goes back to not willing to wear a mask. It's a very simple ask, wash your hands. Now you're asking people to give Big Brother location? I don't think so, even though everybody's giving Big Brother location. They just don't realize it. When they get served those ads as they drive by the pancake house, whatever. The idea, I think, moving forward in the next 6-8 weeks is scaring people into being ultra vigilant and not doing things as normal during the holidays where they know people will. They have the statistics for what Memorial Day did, what Labor Day did, what the 4th of July did, what kids back to school did. Now we're going to send all of these cooped up, horned up 19, 20, 22-year-olds back from the farm. They're all coming back from Roanoke and Winston-Salem, wherever they are, and they're coming back for Thanksgiving. I mean, and then you're going to bring grandma. And, like, I think they're just trying to scare everybody into this isn't a good idea next week to create another plan or to be thinking about another plan. But to your point, the people that are going to gather are going to gather. And I don't think it's going to stop them, but I think it's at least one more flag that when, what do they say? If you gather at Thanksgiving, you might be dead by Christmas. I think that's the thing they're saying right now to scare people. So.
It's definitely fear mongering. I mean, when Hogan comes on TV as many times in a 10-day span or whatever it is, that is fear mongering to some degree.
No, I think it's the principal getting up every day and saying, be nice to your teachers. It's never a bad idea to say it's a bad idea to gather right now. It was a bad idea in March. It's an even worse idea now because we didn't listen in March and we didn't listen in the summer, and that's why we are where we are now. That's a fact. That's not an admonishment. People may take it as that, or you can't tell me what. You ain't telling my ass what to do. I'm done dog. I grew up with all that, but then there's the science part of, do you trust science or do you not? Or do you not trust Larry Hogan? Or is it just that you want to do what the hell you want to do? How about that?
Definitely that.
Yeah, okay. We all do. So do I.
Right. That's America. And then it's about respecting other people and how bad do you really need to do that? And what are the trade-offs that you're willing to make? I think for a long time we've known that if we were willing to share more data about our health, it would have a legitimate impact on the health and well-being of society, right? So like, forget the pandemic, but let's talk about the flu, right? If your phone notified everyone that you had the flu, they would know where flu was hotter and so on. So, like Google's done that kind of research, and they know that if we were more free with our health data, we would all potentially be healthier. There is something wildly uncomfortable about politicians telling me to give them my data on the phone so that you can corral us. Like in today's world, like in what we're experiencing right now, this
is exactly why I didn't give you my number, right?
Right. I mean,
this is why I have not answered a 443-703,
right.
410 number that didn't say Bill and Cole on it. And
right. I mean, it's just so disturbing, and I don't know how we carve back from the level of mistrust that exists. I mean, we mistrust everything. Like
I don't.
Sure you do. You have things that you don't trust.
Like Donald Trump, because he lies incessantly? Sure, I would agree. Yeah. People who lie to me, I do not trust. And that goes to Peter Angelos. That goes to people that are out of my life for that very reason.
The Sun paper. How many times have they let you down over the last 10 years, right? Questionable reporting. Like,
I don't know. I mean, they brought down the mayor, dude. So, like, they did plenty of things right. They have done plenty of things right.
All the other radio stations that tell us the Orioles are great.
Oh, yeah.
When they're literally not. You know what I'm saying? Like that exists everywhere.
All right. Will something magic happens? Every time Bill Cole comes on. All right. I'm going to leave you with this. I hope we get together next week before Thanksgiving. If you do come next week, make sure you're ready to argue pumpkin pie, sweet potato pie, pecan pie. I want to hear like what's on your banquet too. Like I'm a sauerkraut and kielbasa guy. Well, what's on the Cole Thanksgiving menu?
Oh, uber traditional, and like I think I actually have a chance to take the 10-year-old and the 7-year-old and like have them help me cook it because just my immediate family's gonna stay home. So
nice.
So like, all right, let's figure this out. It's very traditional. I mean, I think we'll go turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, probably some corn that I froze from the summer, and I'll probably. My girls love Brussels sprouts, so that's not normal, but I'll probably do that too. And then there's a giant pumpkin pie already in the fridge that my wife might make it to Thanksgiving. I don't know.
Taharka's got pumpkin cheesecake, and pumpkin spice latte is unbelievable. We're going to be making a deal with Taharka. I know you love their ice cream, so I could count you in for an 8-pack on the discount for $15.70. If you're a Taharka fan, if you're an NST fan or a Baltimore Positive fan or a Cole Roofing fan, we're going to have a deal for you. Billy, tell me what you do with roofs in this time of the year, and I guess there are some challenges this time of year, right, with the weather, right?
I want to do like a roof ice cream flavor with Taharka and Baltimore Positive. Like
In roof, Rusty.
we need to get some kind of crazy roof flavor. I don't even know. I have to spend some time thinking about that.
How about like red velvet cake, Cole Roofing red velvet cake? That's what I think. It's like a
Yeah,
roof.
I'm thinking like tar and shingles, and we'll just have to figure out
Oh.
what those things represent. Like
You know
tar
what?
could
Maybe
be
like a
just the
dark
chocolate.
chocolate would be the tar, and the shingle could be like a graham cracker.
Yeah. There you go. I
Yeah, I'm
mean,
selling
see,
it. I'm
we can
selling
make
it.
some. We can do something there.
Well,
Anyway,
they always tell me that's the big thing. Everybody wants to make their own flavor, right?
of course, it's about us, right?
Dream it up.
That's why we can't stop a pandemic, because it's about us. It's not about the whole. We're not all allowed to have vanilla. We
Dude,
have
I
to
drove
have our
by a thing the
own
other
stuff.
day in a house, and I saw one big ass solar panel, and I'm like, my boy Cole's been up here. I saw that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Fixing roofs these days. A lot of people trying to sort their economies out. Um, you know, everybody kind of pushes pause right before the election. We get through the election, everybody's like, okay, the world's not ending. Let's figure out whether we need to fix our roof. And so we saw a nice little spike in activity the following week. But I think right now for people, it's just a lot of maybe not making that giant purchase, right, to replace the whole thing, because I'm concerned about what's coming down the pike. So we're doing a lot of band-aids, a lot of, TLC. Let's just extend the life of this thing.
Let's
Let's
get you
get you
through
around
it.
the corner. Yeah, let's get around the corner, and when better days are ahead. So, and in the solar side, a lot of that is just driven by state incentives and people wanting to continue to sort of take control over their own expenses, as opposed to being at the whim of whatever BG decides to charge us or whatever. So, and people staying home a lot more. We don't do the home solar, but I know that market, and I got a couple friends there, and people are definitely interested, like, because all the lights are on and all the TVs are on and all the computers are on and kids are learning, and it's like my meter's running so
One
fast
thing we
it's
know is
smoking. So
electricity's not going away, and the Russians are going
right,
to take the grid, right? Exactly, right? So
yeah. So
there,
we're
I
just
gave you a
fine.
little
We're finding
paranoia
our
for it.
way.
A
Yeah,
little
yeah.
paranoia to end the whole thing. Bill Cole is at Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. I carry the mug with my Royal Farms coffee in it, but big appreciation for the conversation, the company. We'll talk football next week, all right? I mean, let's get through the Tennessee Pittsburgh thing here and figure out where we are on that. Let's just get the country together, make sure we have football games. How about that?
Yeah, I think they're still very worried. I mean, they keep talking about extending more playoff teams. I think it's all going to be weird. I think that if we lose that again, it's another like dagger into the dark winter of 2020, 2021. Like at least we'll have sports,
Keep
right? Like
football
figure out a
alive.
way to play sports, and then we can sit and watch, I guess. I don't know.
Dude, they played the Masters the other day. We were almost to the end of all of this. Bill, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on. As always, we'll see you next week. All right?
Enjoyed it, brother. Thank you.
Wash your hands. Put a mask on. He's Bill Cole. He is Cole Roofing. You can find him out on the front of BaltimorePositive.com right now, where we've revamped and remodeled everything. Luke's got his own little patio, and Don Moeller's got his place. Bill Cole has his place. My man Dennis Colatzos, who's here every Thursday talking some sports, driving you home, has his place on the website, as well as our friend Todd Schuler, Blondell Miller Schuler, and Leonard Raskin and Raskin Global. Bringing all of our sponsors together, our friends, the Brick family coming on this week to talk about social distancing and their gyms at Planet Fitness. And our friends at Pizza John's, still there any day but Monday. Get down to Essex, grab a cheesesteak and a delicious pizza pie. I have been hankering a ham and pineapple pie. I have never ordered a ham and pineapple pie at Pizza John's. I didn't even know they had a ham and pineapple pie at Pizza John's, but I'm getting one this weekend for the Tennessee Titans game. So there. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore positive.